Early evening live stream. And so today I have one of my co-hosts or co-workers or co-colleagues in the educational realm, Mr. Alan Myers, joining us via audio due to the different setup for himself. So he's actually on the phone line. So Alan Myers, how you doing, my friend?
Michael, it's crazy. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Look
Yes.
forward to the chat. It's not normal day.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. And so after watching what has transpired over the last 24 hours from the Federal Reserve, I thought about, hey, who better person to have at this current moment than a student of the Federal Reserve system than Mr. Alan Myers. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me on such short notice to share what you think and what you see and what's going on. So it looks like we're at zero or near zero or quarter point or whatever it is officially now. Were you surprised that it came about so suddenly, or were you expecting that to be incrementally unleashed upon the public, or what?
The Fed has been acting with the irrational exuberance. I'm being funny there. I mean, they're to go from, first of all, 1.75 is so low, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
To drop it in a moment down to 0.25.
Yeah.
And now it's at zero.
Yeah.
I think a lot of players in the game are looking for negative interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
To me, when a monetary system or a sovereign debt,
Mm-hmm.
a national debt, is in essence at negative interest,
Yeah.
you know the monetary system is deadly ill.
Yeah.
The fact that it's reacting this way tells you it's extreme, using the context of what's going on lately. This is seriously ill.
Yeah.
This is not normal. Yet it's played out as, oh, this is okay. This is fine. Negative interest, at this point, not negative, but at this point, zero interest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which, let's say it does influence the lending rate at banks.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's going to borrow?
That is a very good point.
I mean, okay, I got a restaurant, I got a bar, I got a movie theater, I got a whatever, and I now have to close. What does that mean? I have no income. Yet I'm going to owe my rent. I'm going to owe my insurances. I'm going to owe a bunch of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have any money, so I'll go to a bank and they're going to loan me money at a really low interest rate. Based on what revenue stream?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. This is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah. It's looking at the effective federal funds rate as of right now from the Fed website. They haven't even made adjustments yet to reflect the sudden changes that they've made. So,
I mean, the fact that within a couple of days you've gone from, in essence, 1.75 to zero.
Mm-hmm.
This is not situation normal.
Yeah.
The other thing is, it just occurred to me,
mm-hmm.
interest rate at the Fed Fed level is zero. Interest rates potentially at big banks is going to be very low, mm-hmm. historically low.
Yeah.
Who might have the ability to borrow at that extremely low rate, and who might just absolutely positively need to borrow? I'm going to let you think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
Okay, my turn. No. Because I have an answer to my own question.
Go ahead, please give it to
me. My answer is that right now, according to an article I recently read,
mm-hmm.
I think this is worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate debt is at $75 trillion. That's with a T.
Yeah.
And as I've explained before, just to give you an idea of the magnitude of 1 trillion, 1 trillion seconds is 31,709 years. So think about that in terms of 75 trillion in corporate debt. The corporate debt in America is probably never been this high. And some of these industries are going to be seriously hurting because of what's happening. You've got oil, because the price has been slashed. That's going to affect their revenues. You have transportation such as airlines and cruise ships.
Yeah.
Big borrowers, no revenue. They're going to need to refi their debt.
Yeah. Clearly.
So if anybody's getting help, it's not you or me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not our friend, the bartender or the restaurant owner. It's these huge corporations who, without a little help, because they're not having any, they're not going to have any or very diminished, revenue streams. They're going to need to refi all the bonds they've issued.
Yeah. Now, watch this. So on side, apart from all the companies and corporations that will have issues moving forward, and I hear about the bailout for the airlines industry, the cruise line industries, all those industries that are basically having to slash everything and will not be in operations. So the fiscal stimulus side. So just from the Federal Reserve's actions, what type of physical stimulus do you see coming for all these bailout, for all these corporations that President Trump is looking like he's wanting to help out?
When you drive the interest rate down, which it has been,
mm-hmm.
it makes borrowing potentially easier.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a bailout, well, where's the funds coming from? Okay, it's not coming from production.
Yeah.
It's coming from more debt. Regardless of who holds the debt, it's coming from more debt.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons to help the corporations that have this huge debt that is going to continually come due, and they can't make the interest payments on the bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next question is, okay, all these big industries owe this money with based on the corporate bonds they've issued. Who holds the bonds?
Retirees and all those accounts. Go ahead.
It could be pensions.
Yeah.
It could be hedge funds.
Mm-hmm.
It could be big banks. So when the bailout comes, in a way you're bailing out the industry, but in another way you're really bailing out the debt holder. Which means you're transferring the debt from the public venue potentially to the private venue, the government. This is not good.
Yeah.
And and then if we can get into what is causing all this craziness. And we know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But is this a legitimate source for the amount of craziness we're getting in the economy?
Now, which pin are you referring to? You talk about this health scare, which has pricked the bubble, which exposed all this, or the underlying problem itself being our monetary system and the debt creation from it? Which one are you referring to first and foremost?
First and foremost, what has put this action into action
mm-hmm.
is the health scare. This is what started it.
Mm-hmm.
And because nothing has really happened in the economy to generate these gyrations. However, in the last month or the last few weeks, you can see how this is ramped up exponentially every week.
Yeah.
What was going on 10 days ago is not what's going on today.
Correct.
The question is, there's a doctor in San Diego,
mm-hmm.
Dr. Veltmeyer. He's got a national podcast, I think, called Physician on a Mission.
Mm-hmm.
And he put out an article today talking about this very topic.
Mm-hmm.
This is a person who is in practice today. He's not a casual retired observer. He's there on the front lines to some degree.
Yeah.
He says that the influenza patients, I'll just use the word flu, the regular flus that come through.
Mm-hmm.
These patients, these people are being totally ignored during the outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
More people are susceptible to contracting the common strains of flu than they are the Wuhan virus. and more of them are being hospitalized. The thing that we're not getting the news on every new flu case.
Yeah.
We're not getting the news on every, and I don't minimize this at all. This is serious, but no one, we're not getting news on the latest flu death. Yet these are this is what he reports that he said came from the CDC. Since October 1, in the last 5 months, 51 million Americans have been sickened by the flu.
Yeah.
That's basically 10 million a month. We're not seeing this kind of statistics with Wuhan.
Yeah.
And this is with the widespread availability of flu vaccines. He estimated between 370,000 and 670,000 have been hospitalized, and approximately, again, I don't say this lightheartedly, it's just the number, 55,000 have died. 11,000 per month. Okay, we're not seeing these kind of numbers out of COVID or Wuhan.
Now, is it yet to come? And so, like the whole COVID-19 is literally it's still maybe a week or a week and a half into this country, really. So, think
about this.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No problem.
We're talking about flu strains that have been around for years. Allegedly, there are vaccines for this, and you're seeing these kind of numbers. These numbers overwhelm what you see out of COVID. Yet they're not talking about it. I don't know how much of this is a scare tactic, because the last thing he brings up, or one of the things he brings up in his article, is we are now seeing it at a federal, state, and local level. Restaurants, bars, gymnasiums, you name it, sporting, all of this is being closed, shut down. Unless, of course, you go to a big box store, and then you'll be around 1,000 people as you go shopping. But the question is whatever authority they allegedly have using to issue these edicts, is this constitutional? Because if they get away with this lack of constitutionality in what orders they're issuing, what's going to stop the next round?
Right, now watch this. So it sounds as if you're saying that perhaps that there's more to this story about the actions of our government than just what we're being told. And you highlighted the flu being a very serious case that's not really being mentioned now, but yet the mainstream media, as well as the World Health Organization, officially labeling this a pandemic is the reason why we're being bombarded with this COVID-19 narrative. And so, are you saying there's more to the story?
I think there's always more to the story.
Yeah.
And the question is, or the questions, what questions do we need to be asked that haven't been answered? And whose answer are we going to accept? And when we get their answer, what facts are they going to give us to back up their answer?
Good point. Now,
and also always remembering the context.
Yeah.
Okay, you said, if I told you, and again, I'm not making light of this. I'm just using these numbers for reference, because loss of life is a tragedy. If I told you 3,000 people died, well, you would go, well, that's a shame. Are you talking about over a year, 10 years, or in about 10 minutes? Well, if I told you over 10 years, okay, this is going to happen, Alan.
Yeah.
If I told you it happened in 10 minutes on September 11th, that's a whole different story, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So we need context to the numbers they're giving us, and they're not giving us the context. And the real context is, how does what is happening with COVID compared to what's happening today, right now, with all the various flu strains, with the vaccines already out there. Well, if you've got vaccines out there, and these flus have gone through us, our population, more than 1 year, and the numbers are higher there. This puts some context to what's happening with COVID. Now, I'm not minimizing COVID, and apparently it has the potential of being a lot more easily transmitted.
Yeah.
And as the doctor said, part of it is you have to use common sense, maintain good hygiene, doing other things to minimize your exposure. But the thing just keeps getting, the thing that is now striking me is that this thing keeps getting ratcheted up. It wasn't but a few days ago that the minimum or the maximum number of group is 250. Then it got dropped to 50. Today I see it's been dropped to 10.
Really?
Yeah.
What parts of the country is that? Is that a national, or is that what, state by state? Because I think it's 50 here in Michigan to last time I checked.
That came from the president.
Oh, it did? Okay.
Today.
All righty.
And again, it's not an executive order. It's a suggestion, I believe. But you can see how, as this happens, the tension ratchets up.
Yeah.
And this creates another cycle of tension and fear and panic and unknown.
Yeah.
But to me, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So as you're describing this, what comes to my mind is the fact that in questioning the main narrative we've been given on the severity of it, we can admit that it has the potential to turn into a real game changer, just like the flu, but probably a little bit of a higher stake. But then again, I think it came about in a very timely manner, heading into spring for us, given the fact that we finished fall with probably a good 10 or plus so countries all experiencing social unrest that was becoming unmanageable by governments. And so this health scare, coronavirus situation has dispersed a lot of that, except in France. Like, they're still on the streets in France and in Chile. And so, it's just one of the things that makes me question myself on the timing of this at a time where people were starting to get fed up with their government. And so what better way to get them off the streets now than to scare the hell out of them with something that, can be serious to those that already have, complete immune deficiencies, but then can be labeled as a common flu for your average person, depending on their health situation, from what I've gathered.
Well, what COVID brings is, ultimately, it's the pneumonia, which of course impacts the lungs.
Yeah.
And that is why the older people and those people with compromised immune systems, breathing problems, I don't know why diabetes and high blood pressure kicks in, but it does. And of course, the older you are, the more negative this more negatively this can impact your health.
Yeah.
To your point, it's an interesting time.
Yeah.
When this happened. It's definitely interesting if you look at what conditions China was in before this hit.
Right.
They were dealing with a rebellious teenager called Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Which they didn't like, and they're dealing with ethnic groups in China which they don't like.
Yeah.
Unless they can put them in a gulag. So it's just interesting that it's now given them a situation to crank down even more. It's other than North Korea, there cannot be a more tightly controlled country in the world.
Yeah.
And it's not for the benefit of the people.
Right, I would agree. And so right now on the screen, I'm playing just some of the activity over in Paris from this past weekend of people not really concerning themselves with, this health scare as opposed to the issues they were having with the government prior to the issues they were having with this coronavirus. So let me ask you a question. I heard some people in the alternative media space today talking about we're 72 hours away from martial law being declared and using something called the Stafford Act, which is one of those statutes that would give the president a power and authority to shut down, what's it called, moving throughout the country and give them more authority to really bring this thing home to roost as far as not being able to travel freely. Do you think this is all leading to that based upon what we're seeing now with all the questions that are unanswered?
Every time something comes up out of this health situation, control gets more and more, whether it is national, state, or local. To that point, and I don't know if we talked about this on Saturday, I don't remember. There's a mayor. Oh yeah, we did. The mayor in Champaign, Illinois, who issued an executive order, better known as an edict. And this was going to give her all this power over the city. About, I mean, one thing that I thought was so ridiculous, you could only buy gasoline if you're going to put it in a tank attached to a car, which meant if you ran out of gas 2 miles down the road and you happen to have a gas can, you get to the gas station, you can't fill it up.
Yeah.
And also, of course, it was going after guns and ammo.
Yeah.
and this, of course, is all in the name of safety.
Yeah.
No.
So I put up on the screen that same situation. A very first article that popped up, and it says Champaign City Council gives mayor power to impose curfew, seize private property. It says water rationing and forced business closures were among a litany of emergency powers the city council granted Champaign's mayor and city manager in response to the global health crisis. And now Illinois is one of those states that is already having a hell of a problem with overtaxation, loss of the population there because of being taxed out and all the debt that will not be repaid. How does seizure of private property come into play?
Well, when number one, if you can, it's kind of like when you get stopped driving, and I don't mean you personally,
right.
When a person gets stopped and for whatever reason, the car is searched and they find a lot of cash.
Yeah.
Well, that's already assumed that that's bad and they take it.
Yeah.
This is called asset confiscation. Well, you may have to spend a year or two and a lot of legal fees just trying to get your property back.
Yeah.
But chances are you won't get your property back. Well, when you have a government seize property, and it's controlled by employees of the government, and the employees want to keep their jobs, so they're going to do what they're told.
Yeah.
You're not getting your property back, not easily, if ever. Well, now I'm talking to you personally. You had to go pick something up. But for whatever reason, you didn't make it back to your home prior to the tick-tock of the curfew, and you're 2 blocks from home. Police pull you over. What are you doing? You're supposed to be in your. I had to go get some medicine for my child or my parents or whatever, and yet and there was a line, and I don't believe you. Get out of your car. Give me the keys to your car. We're going to seize your car. Walk home and stay there.
Yeah.
This is asset confiscation.
Yeah. Now, amongst that, one of the very last little bullet here is it says ration or shut off public utilities such as water and power. And so, like, how would that type of extreme measure come into play during a health crisis when people need power and people would need water for their homes? if it didn't have anything to do with the fact that it cost them and they can't afford it already. So they're just going to add this bullet into the current issues they're having and call it, something that's in the best interest of the citizens of the state of Illinois.
Well, that begs many questions. Okay, if you shut down water, now it could, is this individual by individual? Is this neighborhood by neighborhood? Is it the whole city? Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. When everything is going, to where in a handbasket, the basic utilities are needed.
Yeah.
So how is shutting water or rationing electricity helping anyone? And let's say you're, and this is I'll say it's a true story. It was told to me today.
Yeah.
By a bank teller that I see every once in a while at one of the banks I go to.
Yeah.
And this person's friend lives in ski country. This person was a ski instructor, a bartender, and a server at a restaurant. In one day, that person lost all 3 jobs.
Really?
Ski resort shut down.
Yeah.
Bar shuts down. Restaurant shuts down. You have no job. Went from 3 jobs to no jobs in a heartbeat. No payday. Well, now we're going to shut down your electricity and your water, and either you'll freeze to death or you'll just, dehydrate to death. I mean, none of this makes sense.
It doesn't.
But I'll tell you what this brings up. And in a way, sometimes things have to get really, really bad. It's like the person, as an example, who, God forbid, but had a heart attack. Okay. They were eating wrong. They weren't exercising, all the stuff.
Yeah.
They live through it and they go, oh my. And they have the revelation. They change their life. They start maybe with walking. Yeah. They stop the heavy drinking. They stop the bad food. And they take their health in hand.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you have to have something really bad before you realize what you need to take care of.
Yeah.
And this could be one heck of a wake-up call for this country, because I know a few people, and if you come to take their property, if you come to do certain things,
yeah,
there is going to be a serious reaction to it.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is where, again, if you want a real uniter, you have a common cause. Okay, let's say you and I live in the same neighborhood kind of area, but I don't know you from boo. But it hits the fan, and you and I think alike.
Yeah,
you've just become my best friend. I got your 6, you got my 6, and we are going to do what we have to protect our families, our community, our city from this craziness. We'll do it. And ultimately, for me, this leads to what I'm trying to do is basic monetary system education, because if you really want to understand what's going on nationally, statewide, local, when it comes to the monetary system and how it directly negatively impacts all of us every day, you understand the basics. And then you find out we only have to do this to fix this problem. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's scary, but on the other hand, sometimes we need really we need a bad situation to wake us up and get us involved individually.
And I think this will be it. That's for sure. This might be that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. And the other thing that hopefully will come out of this, and I've been thinking about this for some time, is that the term supply chain is coming into the common conversation. Where does our stuff come from? When you find out the majority of your medicines come from China, when you find out that 85% of the IV bags come from China, we got a problem. Why are we, America, financially and economically supporting a totalitarian regime that is dead set against us? This does not make sense on any level.
Yeah. Yeah. And watch this. My belief, and that what I've been telling people, is that as all this unwinds, especially after the Federal Reserve get done doing what they're going to do to try to stimulate and to basically run this economy into the ground, I don't foresee China really wanting to do business with us under the prior conditions of old days of continuing to extend us credit in exchange for us them sending us goods and services. So I think by default, we might have to actually get back to doing something for ourselves in this country, because I don't think it's going to be sent to us under the current conditions of we'll send you debt. When you send us debt, we send you real stuff.
Well, I mean, the companies that are having their items manufactured over there are still doing, they're still, in the chain of getting paid.
Yeah.
The thing is China has probably bought debt, U.S. debt, just to keep the system going. But think about this. Go back 30 years. Go back to the time of Nixon, and we don't have this great reconciliation with China. And we don't start manufacturing all this stuff in China. What does China's economy look like?
To my knowledge, they didn't really have much of an economy, because it was under one closed window of pure communism under Mao. So
they only have what they have because we have given them the funding by having things manufactured over there. We've allowed our technology to be taken. And at the same time, and this is the real kicker, China is, by all records, the most polluting country in the world.
Yeah.
Why are we supporting that? I thought people cared about the country. I mean, the planet, the environment. Okay, so when you buy something from China, you're buying something from the most polluting country in the world. Think about that. Do you really want to support the most polluted country in the world? Or do you want to work to bring work production back? Because the less we make for ourselves, the more dependent we are on the world, which means the less self-sufficient we are as a country. How strong is a country if it isn't self-sufficient?
Not strong at all. Not strong at all.
Regardless of what allegedly the economy is doing.
Yeah.
If you're totally dependent on the rest of the world, you can't stand on your own. That's not a strong country.
Very true. And so we will, I think, as the supply chain, as you referenced, as more of that is exposed, as running short in the next, possibly, Big Ben was saying, next couple of weeks or whatever, we're going to really find out in a very uncomfortable way as store shelves are emptied out and there's no refilling them for some time, or something else is provided for us. And so one thing I want to throw at you, I'm reading the chat a little bit. As always, give us a call if you want to ask a question directly or share some thoughts. But I saw a lot about UBI, Universal Basic Income, and I believe in your state, in Stockton, I don't know if sure. Was the test pilot rolled out for 1,000 people, I think, or so? Can we expect UBI in the next couple of weeks or months, give or take, because of all the stuff going on? In your opinion,
who mentioned that in the news about $1,000 per adult? Okay,
Mayor of Stockton.
No. There's another
person.
And I forget. I can see the face. I don't remember the name.
All right, let me look it up. Go ahead.
The thing is that, okay, if you try to put a Band-Aid on an arterial bleed, are you really going to fix the problem?
Oh, not at all.
No. Okay, people, basically, they want to work. They want to take care of themselves. They want to provide for themselves and their family and their friends or whatever else in their community. This is what we need to be focused on, not handouts.
Yeah.
Handouts create dependency.
Yeah.
They don't fix the problem. And the dependency is, I'm dependent on the one providing me the funds, therefore I will back whatever they do. And then I get disconnected from taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Now I become socially dependent, economically dependent, and then I become quite the pawn, because you'll tell me what to do, you'll promise me some money, and I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I've stopped being an independent thinking human being, and I've just become a drone.
Yeah.
Not good. So I mean, we don't need any more, I'll call them handouts, because this started in the 60s, the Great New Society. And okay, how is that working at a national level? Do we have less poverty now than we had in the 60s?
Yeah.
I don't think so. We have more poverty.
Yeah.
These handouts don't fix problems. Hand-ups do. Helping somebody become more self-sufficient, helping somebody get a trade, get educated so they can take care of themselves and their family, that works. Straight handouts don't work.
Mm-hmm. So Mitt Romney and Tulsi Gabbard were the people mentioned, and it looks like on Twitter today, as suggesting that during this crisis, each adult American citizen should get $1,000 check to cover costs and keep the economy running. And so that's the cry now. Give everybody $1,000, and it'll help them through this crisis. So yeah, I've been talking about UBI for quite some time now, and because it's becoming a more accepted term amongst the public, it's only a matter of time before politicians give the people what they want. So I don't think there's no fighting, no arguing against it, because right now would be a great time that it will be welcomed and accepted. But yet, once you hand something out, there's no reeling it back in, because the people become dependent upon it, and then that's all she wrote. So can you say the current 23 trillion can easily, by the time this thing plays out, or as we're halfway through it, could easily exceed 30 trillion plus if this fiscal stimulus includes all type of things such as this. Would you agree? Hello? Mr. Myers, you still there? Let me check and see if he's still around. But we're going to keep moving. Mr. Myers, if you're still there, Alan, let me know if you're still there. If not, we're going to get ready to dial back. But I think that this is this is a good insight into what's coming. And so Barlight Broker says, get your chain, do the right thing, Mike. So I'd be wondering, is that seriously something that you're encouraging people to do, get gold chains? Because that is, they will be of value, that's for sure. And so I'm not sure if Mr. Allen is still with us, but I look like let me see if I can get him on here. Hello? Allen, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. So you connected again?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. So we got you here. So no, but I was talking about the UBI and mentioning that how once it's thrown out in the public and they get wind of it, they want to run with it. So it's coming. Now it's a matter of how much will that add to the current 23 trillion, or where will they be pulling that from to provide it to the public?
Do I sound okay?
Yeah, you do. Everything's good.
Because I've got echo in my end, but no worries. The problem with any good Ponzi is that you run out of lenders. You can't just keep adding to the debt unless you have lenders. Well, we're going to run out of lenders quick, because the economies of the other nations are going to tank. So there's not going to be more funding.
But do you need lenders when you have a central bank that will be more than accommodative to provide all the stimulus you need to meet all your obligations?
Well, keep in mind that the stimulus you're talking about is basically journal entries.
Yeah.
And at a certain point in time, if the only buyer of the treasuries is the Fed,
Hmm.
no one else is going to buy them. And when
Hmm.
they come time to be redeemed,
Hmm.
they're going to cash out, which will cause them to even be less valuable.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
There and
Fed is not the solution, it's part of the problem. And
Yep.
more government spending is part of the problem. We need our economy, we need people and businesses working, and we need straight answer on this health situation.
Yeah. Now, what's the likelihood that any of that will be coming in the short term? It's usually years after the fact. You look back and you put the pieces of the puzzle together to see what has transpired during our time, and it's always something that strips away our freedoms and more of our individual liberty rights or whatnot. And so, as always, the sheeple people never ask questions during the process of losing because they're enticed by things such as UBI. So they're not going to be asking questions if they lost their job and somebody said we're going to give you $1,000 a month to help you during this crisis. They don't care where it comes from. They just want it. And so after it runs its course and they realize the damage is done, then they'll look back and point the blame at somebody at that point and care at that point.
What you said is really, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Go ahead.
Okay. What you said is pivotal,
Mm-hmm.
pivotal. And you said when people don't care where the money comes from,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if that's the case, then therein lies the problem. As long as you get it, you don't care where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really understand how diseased, toxic, or negative what you just got is in your overall life. Because
Yeah.
if it's creating more and more unpayable debt, it means this system is going to fail faster and faster because the debt cannot be repaid.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Therein lies the problem. And the reason we even have a national debt, other than the fact that we have a government that our founders never envisioned as far as size and intrusion into our personal lives, it's because they've been allowed to borrow.
Mm-hmm.
But the federal government has no for-profit business, which means its borrowing is basically a Ponzi scheme
Yeah.
because it can never repay its debts from profit. What I want to know is who's going to join Bernie Madoff in the cell for running the world's largest public Ponzi scheme.
Now, bankers and politicians do not go to jail. So
I'll tell you what.
yeah,
I know that, but I'm going to take the other side of that.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. When the people of America
Mm-hmm.
finally say no more,
Mm-hmm.
they get personally and publicly involved,
Yeah.
whether it's a local, state, or national level. You tell what I affectionately refer to as the elected employees.
Mm-hmm.
You tell them, get this done or don't come home.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get it done. The problem is we, the people, are not fully engaged in our own government and what it's doing and limiting it. Hopefully, with monetary system education, when people finally realize how we have been lied to, cheated on, and stolen from,
Mm-hmm.
and what simple fix is needed, this is all going to change. We can have a monetary system, we can have an economy, and I know this sounds wackadoodle, but it's what I have come to understand and believe.
Yeah.
No inflation, because the supply of money can be controlled in such a way we don't have inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Purchasing power stays constant. No need and no ability to levy a federal income tax. Wouldn't you like to wake up tomorrow and no more tax? I know I would.
Yeah.
And no more borrowing and eventually pay off the debt. If this thing goes on long enough, do you really want to look your children in the face and say, I helped leave you 30, 40 trillion dollars of debt? Goodbye. I don't want that conversation with my children.
Right.
Because that's what's going to happen. But eventually this is going to fail. And if things spiral out of control and the federal government, kicks in with, everybody's going to get some money, this is only coming from debt. This is not coming from more taxation, because the tax revenue is going to drop off precipitously because of all these businesses closing down, which means they're not earning any money, which means they're not going to be paying any taxes.
Yeah, and on top of that, the payroll tax looks like it was suggested that they kicked that can down the road to the end of this year. So it looks like Trump wants to do away with taxes on the payroll side for corporations. But how about, have you heard anything about this tax season that's underway now? Is that going to be pushed down the road a little bit due to the fact that if people aren't working, people, I'm sure, will not be able to go outside to actually go and file the taxes or whatnot? What's the word you're hearing on that? Anything in particular?
Well, today was the filing deadline, or file an extension for S corps and partnerships and LLCs. There was no word on extending that. There has been some conversation about extending the individual deadline, which this year is April 15th. They're talking about extending that without having to file an extension. But the reason for doing it, if you've got all these people who aren't working, they got plenty of time to get it done.
Yeah.
What I see coming locally is all these different, and probably for you too, all these different businesses. And they're in business, they're doing okay, but they're not doing great. And now you shut down their ability to bring in money. But a lot of their expenses aren't going away. Their rent's not going away. Their insurance isn't going away. Their utilities is going to be reduced, but it's still not going away. Yeah. Got to keep those freezers still going. You got to keep some lights on. Got to keep the energy going for the alarm system. This is why, and to your credit for putting something like this out that gets out to more and more people, that hopefully they start looking at what's going on with somewhat more a cautious attitude, and not just a total 100%, they said it, I'm buying into it.
Yeah.
And start asking questions. And also maybe changing behavior, in that you don't run down to the store and grab 20 cases of water, or as an example.
Yeah.
And to now say you can't have, you shouldn't have a gathering of more than 10 people. So what happens when you have a really big family?
Yeah, that is something, man, like we are this week. So it's Monday. It's the end of Monday, and we are already having a hell of a day. And so we didn't even get to all the financial market stuff, but yet March Madness is what I entitled this. Federal Reserve tries to control March Madness. Give me one last thing that you see being rolled out or implemented before March is over with, in your opinion.
Ooh, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, which is monetary system education. This last week it's gone almost ballistic with what has occurred. I am going to be very interested to note how this plays out in the next week or two.
Yeah.
But the thing is to start, I mean, we can guess all we want about what's going to come.
Yeah.
But whatever comes out of the federal or state or local governments is probably not going to, my guess is it's not going to be good. They're going to play this hand until they have as much control as possible. And I imagine the musician Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Well, he has an interest in a restaurant or bar in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a real clever name, like, Kick Ass Bar
Yeah.
and Grill or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, they have decided to not follow the city of Memphis order to shut down. They said they won't shut down until it comes from this governor. So here's a person who's saying, I know what you told me to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do it. And this is once again something for everybody to start to think about.
Mm-hmm.
What am I being told? Who's telling me? And do they have a constitutional right to enforce what they're telling me? And if they don't, it's time to push back. But at the same time, be reasonable with your health and your hygiene, and what you touch and what you don't touch. Michael, you're excellent at not touching your face while we're talking. So this is really good.
Yeah.
Where you cough, where you sneeze. And
Yeah.
now, if you walked by somebody 4 weeks ago and they coughed, you wouldn't think twice about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You walk past somebody who coughs today, what is your first thought?
You like, you don't react like, oh, I hope I hope they don't have anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very interesting week, and hopefully people will settle down.
Yeah.
And start doing some self-study and some research, as Dr. Veltmeyer did, and understand the regular flu is a whole lot more pervasive than COVID. And as far as the Fed, at this point, it's a wild guess. Okay, are they going to take us negative? I never thought we'd get to zero.
Yeah. During the narrative of everything was fine, especially from our president saying the economy's strong. They've lived up to that all last week. The economy's doing fine. We're in great position right now. As Americans, we should be very proud of. I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll see. But we have crises type measurements that have been rolled out, and I wonder is the president still going to say everything is great? So we'll see whatever they throw out at us. But Alan,
can I throw one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. When somebody tells you that everything is fine, you're on a boat cruise, right?
Yeah.
And every time you look down, the water is coming higher up on your leg. Are you believing that everything is fine? No. The water isn't supposed to be coming up on top of your foot, your ankle. Well, when you tell me, and I'm using you just for the heck of it, when you tell me that the economy is doing really well, it's robust, look at the stock market and all the stuff we've been hearing, right? Well, I look at the other side of that coin, and I look at debt load, national, all the states, all the counties, all the cities, the people, the businesses, how underfunded the vast majority of pension plans are. Okay, pension plans underfunded. How underfunded Social Security is.
Yeah.
When I look at that side of the coin, what I see is not a great economy, because if you had a great economy, you would not have these problems.
Right.
Which means if you just look at the surface, the veneer, oh, we allegedly don't have high unemployment. Oh, the stock market is bonkers and great and solid. Housing prices are up. Inflation is at 2%. Isn't this all wonderful? Well, you got to this position by accumulating unpayable debt. So no, this is not good. It's going to fail. And we are facing a crisis. But if there's any place that I would want to be facing a crisis, it's in America.
Yeah, I would agree.
There's one thing that we, despite how different we can be and how, we don't like each other, whatever, there's one thing that usually comes out in the American spirit. When it hits the fan, we're all brothers and sisters. and we stand for the country.
Yeah, hopefully that remains true, my friend.
Well, it will with us.
Yeah, well, exactly. It will. Well, hey, Alan Myers, it's been great having you join me on such short notice. I appreciate you for chiming in and sharing your thoughts. And FedEd is where people can find out more about your information.
FedEd.us.
Yep, I'll put that on the screen here.
Thank you.
And with that being the case, we will connect again sometime soon, as always. And we will have more to talk about, I'm sure. So let me share my screen here if I can. And then other than that, Mr. Myers, enjoy the rest of your day. And here you go on the screen here. I'll put this in the chat as well.
Thank you.
To find out more about some of the great work you do. And with that being the case, everybody's been great hanging out this early after a little late, or was it a little early evening over here, late afternoon for you. And other than that, doing another live stream later on tonight. And so I want to actually hear from you, the viewers, as to what's going on in your neck of the woods. So with that being the case, everybody be blessed, be safe, and we will see you again. Enjoy yourself.
Michael, thank you very much. Be safe and well.
Will do.